My guest is Ilan Peleg. He's a professor at Lafayette College. He's also been the editor for 10 years of the Israeli Studies Forum.
Yes, indeed.
And it's quite a journal. It's the foremost journal in its field, and to do 10 years, that's quite a service.
Yes, this is a labor of love. Our organization, the Association for Israel Studies, is based on volunteer work, and I was quite thrilled to take this responsibility on.
And relieved to get rid of it?
Yes, indeed. No question about that.
Okay, we want to talk about not the journal, but majority-minority relationships, and particularly in Israel. And the usual one is the Israel Jewish majority to the Palestinian minority. That's the typical one, or sometimes differentiated between the Bedouin or the Druze. It gets multiplied. Let's start with that, but I want to get into the new immigrants who are coming in who aren't Jewish, the workers from China, the workers from Thailand, etc. But start with the Palestinians. How would you characterize it now?
Those relationships have been, I think, very difficult from the very beginning. Israel has indeed perceived itself, conceived itself as a Jewish state, but at the same time has had a dual commitment for the equality of all of its citizens. And very often those two commitments come into clash with each other. So there are certain contradictions that have been built into the system, and there is an effort on the part of a variety of organizations and individuals, university centers and so forth, to equalize the relationships.
But which direction is it going in? I mean, clearly for a while they were under a military regime and they didn't really have that kind of freedom. But now they're moving into universities. Can they move equally into government and equally into business, or what inhibitions are there?
Well, I think part of the issue is the ongoing conflict between the Israelis and the Palestinians. That is, Palestinians in the West Bank and Gaza and beyond. Obviously, the Palestinians in Israel are relatives, very often immediate relatives, to the Palestinians beyond the border. So I think the tension between themselves and the Jewish majority in Israel is being fed by that kind of reality. So my argument tends to be, and I'm working on a book now with Professor Dov Waxman, is that as part of an effort to resolve the Israeli-Palestinian issue, the status of the Palestinians in Israel also must be given close attention.
But if you, let's take the war's over and they've made peace, assuming, it will be very dreamy, would there all still be problems? Because we showed a film, for instance, last year on this is a Vietnamese girl who'd come to Israel with that small segment taken in 79, 80 that Begin took. And she has an identity crisis when she's grown up and thinks of going back, can't go back because she's no longer really Vietnamese. Very typical immigration pattern, but different in Canada, because in Canada, it doesn't matter. You very quickly can be a Canadian, whether you're Vietnamese or Chinese, etc. It's fairly easy to do now. It's not so easy in Israel because of the identity. So that other than the conflict, there's still a dimension of difficulty.
Yes, I agree that the Israeli society have always defined itself as a Jewish country, and in this regard, it has not been as accommodating or as open as it potentially could be. Although, at the same time, I would say that this notion of multiculturalism and open up the system to others in terms of equality is quite promising. I think the Israeli society had become more liberal, more open, more Western through the years, and yet there is a long way to go. There is still tremendous gaps, for example, in terms of income between Jews and Arabs in Israel, and between variety of groups who came to the Israeli society from different parts of the world.
Yeah, but her problem was, the Vietnamese girl's problem was, she had served in the army. She spoke Hebrew. She hardly spoke, she did speak some Vietnamese, but not much. But people keep asking her if she speaks Hebrew. You can't be Israeli, you see, because there's a body type that creates, and it's not as if Israel's the only country. Germany had that problem. There's other countries that have ethnic identities which have a defined picture of who they are that gets challenged, and they have to go through a growing process. Is Israel overcoming that pretty reasonably and pretty rapidly?
Yeah, I think that in general this may sound a little pessimistic, but I don't think that issues of identity and majority-minority difficulty, those are not the kind of issues that can ever be resolved. They can always, or under the best of circumstances, they can be better managed. This is one idea that I learned from a very distinguished Canadian philosopher, Will Kymlicka.
Yeah, right.
And Will Kymlicka have argued it with great amount of sophistication. And by the way, I would say that in general, Canadian scholars like Charles Taylor, like Kymlicka, and many others have had enormous amount of impact on those of us who, like myself, deal with ethnic issues in many different societies.
It's funny you mentioned Bill, because I just sent off a chapter a couple of days ago to his new book on cosmopolitanism, which is partly a critique of his rooted cosmopolitanism, but it's an argument we have within Canada. But generally, the issue of how you assimilate, how you integrate, and the wording is important. Minorities are a problem in every culture, and has a particular dimensions in Israel. Part of it is income, but not all. Part of it is openness, that's very important. Part of it is a wanting to know the other, which is a much more active approach rather than just a passive saying, okay, I don't mind if you're equal, but I'm not going to do anything about getting to know you. So there's all kinds of dimensions of it. And it involves norms on the state, it involves, more importantly, I think, practices in civil society. So I'd like to pursue that.
Indeed, and I think the historical dimension is very, very important. We have to remember that Israel came out of a result of many, many years preceding its birth of a major conflict between two national movements. On the one hand, the Arab national movement, or Palestinianism, if you will. On the other hand, Zionism, or the Jewish national movement. And when Israel was born, it was born in a fundamental conflict that was in its severity very, very serious, not unlike India, Northern Ireland, Sri Lanka, and many other societies. So I think that in this regard, the challenge for building a democratic and egalitarian society have been enormous. I think the country, as I said before, committed itself to this dual identity, if you will, from the very beginning. On the one hand, the particularistic Jewish identity that Israel, according to Zionism, is supposed to reflect and achieve, but on the other hand, also the commitment to equality of all people. I think that in many ways, Israel, even though it is technically speaking an immigrant society, it is much more similar in many ways to the European societies, where you have a majority and a minority that are indigenous group and very attached to their culture. That's as against, for example, the United States, to some extent Canada, Australia, New Zealand, and so forth, immigrant societies that sort of invented a new identity to themselves, which is very clear, I think, in the US case.
Well, in Canada, we do have, of course, the French Canadians, the Quebecois, which is a nation within a larger nation, and on the other hand has minorities it has to deal with. But minority where the French Canadians want to preserve their identity and their language, and there's probably more similarities with Quebec than...
I absolutely would agree that the case of the Anglophone, Francophone in the Canadian context is highly relevant in the case of Israel. So that, for example, Israel already has a clear-cut recognition from the very beginning of Arabic as a language to dominate schools to be taught in schools that the Arabs attend. So I think in this regard, for example, the Arab minority is recognized beyond what many minorities within, for example, Germany or Holland or other West European countries receive.
With that, we're going to have to end. Thank you very much, Ilan.
Thank you.